Well, hello everyone. Welcome back once again to the VoV network where great things are always happening. My name is Brian and I'm joined here by my partner in crime right next door. So Mina is the co-founder. Mina, say hello to everyone.
Hello. I didn't know
Everyone
who
is
I was because you didn't say Dr. Mina or Dr. Wilhelmina, so I was lost. I didn't know who you were talking to.
pardon me. From this day forth, she shall be known as Your Highness Dr. Mina. So everyone make sure we capture that in everything that we do moving forward in life, or you will feel the wrath of Dr. Mina. Is this your first time joining us here at the VOV Network? What we're all about is giving you ways to continue to cultivate, enhance, and preserve the better relationships and connections that you have in your life. So, for the month of January, what we're focused on here at the VOV Network is just a new year, the new you. We're going to give you some ways, insights, and inspiration so that you can be successful at the resolutions and the goals and different objectives that you've set for yourself. Part of that process is definitely going to be making some choices. Sometimes it may be some hard choices. But one thing about life and what our title is today, you make the choices or life will make them for you. Stick around. Let's check it out. All right, well, welcome back, everyone. What this session is all about is choices, and that life, some people just realize it really is just a series of choices. The path you think you're on and how you ended up on that path and where that path may lead you is strictly based on what choices you make as you work your way through life. And that's what we want to get into today because a lot of times people get in those situations where they can't choose. They've got different options and different ways and different things that they can choose from or what they're about to do. And so it's like, okay, what do I do in those moments? How can I make sure that as best I can, I am making the right choices, I am on the right path in life, and what that's all about. Mina, what do you want to share on top of that?
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes there's a lot of options out there or not enough, and you're just trying to figure it out. What do you want to do? So,
Mhm.
yeah, if you don't do anything, that's a choice too, because you're just waiting and life happens, right?
Great. And that's one of the things is exactly where I wanted to go next was to say just that. If you don't make a choice, people say, well, I'm not going to decide or I'm going to wait or well, you've actually made a choice because not making a choice is actually choosing. And each time you're in it, whatever the situation may be, you choose not to make a choice, not to take action. There is a repercussion for that, right? It's that whole,
Mhm.
uh, action reaction type thing that happens.
Mhm.
So there's always some type of consequence associated with making a choice or not making a choice. But before we get any deeper into that, there's a couple of things I want to bring up. First one being, what is a choice? I mean, we say, well, what is a choice? This word gets thrown around a lot, and not that we need to get a Webster's dictionary definition of it, but what do we mean when we say make a choice? And it's actually very simple. It's simply you have to decide or pick between something. Just that simple. So whatever that means, however that applies to you in your day-to-day life, that's really what a choice boils down to. So when you get in those situations, then it's like, okay, I have a choice to make. Typically, there is some type of input that's coming to you, whether it's multiple options or a decision or a choice, some kind of stimulus that you're receiving. You have to evaluate what's coming in from an input standpoint and then say, okay, based on what I've received, what the input that I have, whatever the stimulus might have been, now I need to choose to do A, B, C, D, however many choices might have come out of the information that you receive. What's interesting though is there's actually a gap between the stimulus or the input and the response that you put out. And that's actually where the choice itself resides. And that's what we wanted to bring up today and talk about that. And so people can really understand it's not just something comes in and then you respond to it. Something comes in, you actually have a space in between to evaluate it, process it, make the better choice for you, then respond. But making sure that you understand that. And then, so what do you do in that space of time that you have that's in the middle, which is your choice?
In that space of time where you're making that choice, you may not even be thinking about that choice. You may be glossing over that and just automatically doing things because you do it that way all the time. But that little space there is the time to be mindful and kind of think about, what you want to do instead of
Mhm.
just kind of doing what you always do. Be present and be mindful of what's going on at the time.
When you're making these choices, like I said, you have the input, and then obviously there's the output that comes from it, which is going to be your reaction or response to the stimulus that came in. But that space in between, which is where your choice is. So then you say, okay, well, what else fills that space, right? So this is where you look at things like your morals and values. What are your habits that you have that fill that space? And then also, what are your abilities, your aptitudes, your attitude? Uh, All of those things actually fill
Mhm.
that space where you can make that choice, right? So getting a feel for and understanding what those things are, how you value them, how it matters to you is also important to help you make the better choice.
Right.
So that's part of this entire process is to figure out what those things are that are in that space between here and there so that you can make the better choice for yourself. And again, habits is probably one of the biggest ones, right?
Yeah.
Because there's two sides of habits, right? It's
Right.
either how to establish one, which some people find very difficult to do. And then what can even be more difficult is how to break one. When you
Mhm.
have a habit and you realize this is probably not the best habit for me, I need to be able to break and get out of it.
Mhm.
So weighing your habits into it is very important. And then obviously, as we said, morals and values are going to play a huge role in that. Um, we just did a video the other week about your why,
Right.
and as part of this process, that really keeps it close to self because in making your choices, you really do want to weigh in a lot on what's your why behind it, um,
Mhm.
and not so much what other people may think.
Right, that's what other people think. That's really not gonna bring you that satisfaction or happiness, or you're not even gonna be comfortable because you're worried about what other people think. But at the same time, your values, if you know what they are, what you value the most, like for some people it's family, maybe it's money, maybe it's acceptance, and maybe it is about what people think. Maybe that is what you value the most.
Could
And
be.
so if it is that, then that's how you're gonna make your choice, if
Mhm.
you're conscious about these things. And sometimes you do it, like we said, by habit. You've done this always the same way, so you keep doing that, but maybe it doesn't serve you well, so you really have to think about what really is important to you when you're making choices.
Agreed. Absolutely agree with that. And it can seem like it's overwhelming because there's so many pieces
Yes,
and
it
parts,
is, isn't it?
and we go through life, and again, life is nothing but a series of choices, and most of
Mhm,
them become reactionary. We just,
mhm.
we're just reacting to the stimulus as it comes in and making a choice, not really processing through that space that's in the middle,
Right,
and
yeah,
then the possible repercussions from what might happen by that choice
right.
down the road, right? But it becomes almost just like I said, subconscious, second
Right.
nature. Bam, bam, bam. We go
Mhm.
about making these choices, right?
And it's not easy at all. Those automatic
No,
things are automatic.
right. And it's automatic, and that's one of those things where and there's a balance to many things in life because then you don't want to
Yeah,
flip too far to the other side
right.
where you're always in your own head too, right?
Yeah,
Because then you
mhm,
start overthinking and
mhm,
over analyzing,
yeah,
and then that also impacts your ability to make a choice because you
mhm,
paralyze yourself, right? Because
mhm.
I don't know what to do because I'm overthinking, I'm over processing, right? So now you're on the opposite end of the same stick,
Yeah,
and as we
mhm.
said at the beginning of this episode,
Make a
not making
choice.
a choice is still a choice, right?
Mhm.
So the whole thing of what we want to focus in on today is to make you aware of the space that's in the middle where you can process these different things so you can make the better choices,
Right,
but then also to understand that what not making a choice is going to have an impact because life is going to choose for you one way or another. And
right.
then also understanding that you really do have a lot of control to kind of help guide the road that you take
Mhm.
in life based on the choices that you make. One of the things I want to bring up, this is really kind of a thing I think a lot of us get stuck in when we come to choosing to do something differently, right? Because we get in these patterns, right? In life, you get because life is about certain patterns, and we've also talked about in some of the episodes, comfort zones. You get into this space of comfort, and you're riding that wave. You're like, oh, I like it here. I don't want to get out of this comfort zone. But maybe there are some things in that space that are not the best thing for you. So you need to be able to change or get away from it, right? Um, and some of the things that this can be related to, I think some great examples would be relationships, school,
Right.
friendships, and many other things like that. Because what happens a lot of the times, we might even know that there's some things in it that aren't perfect or that aren't right,
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
don't work for us. But because we go, but I've put 6 months into it. I've already put 2 years into school,
Yeah.
you know? And I picked this as my major, and I'm already 3 years into it. And now that I'm 3 years into it, I really know I do not want to do this. But instead of
Right.
taking the time to step back, change direction, make a different choice,
Mhm.
we'll stay on that same path because we feel like we've already
Yeah.
invested what we're going to call sunken time. You've already sank time into it.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
gone. You know you can't get it back. So,
Right.
but instead of choosing to do something differently, you just stay knowing that it's not the path that you want to be on.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, been
So,
there, done that.
yeah, I think many of us can probably relate to that. So that's one of the key things we want to talk about is don't let sunken time or sunken treasure or any of those types of terms keep you stuck in a place where you know that the choice you need to make is a different choice. But because you feel I'm invested in it already, I'm already down this road, I'm just gonna stick with it. Because where is it gonna lead you
Yeah.
to?
Nowhere.
Right? It's gonna
Especially if
come.
you're talking about relationships and you're stuck in one that you know is going nowhere, and you just keep beating your head on a wall,
Mhm,
and you're
mhm.
just stuck in it, but because you've been there for so long, however much time you put into it, and you're stuck in it, and you stay in it for what? What's on the other side of that?
Right,
Really,
right.
what's on it? I
What's
mean,
on it?
and I can only say this because I've been there. We don't just
Yeah.
preach at you. We've experienced the things we're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Got the been there, got the T-shirt and the whole 9
Yes,
yards. Yeah, yeah,
yes.
absolutely. So one of the things that I wanna get back to, that's kinda tied to the same space, because you're in this space of not being able to break the cycle, break the chain, make a
Mhm,
change, those kinds of
mhm,
things. So then you also have to stop back and add an additional filter on top. And that filter is going to be your actual abilities. Now I need to choose between doing A, B, C, or D.
right.
But then do you have the actual ability to do that thing that you think you should choose to do? Right. So you need to actually be honest with yourself. Say, all right, I need to make a choice. And and I think this is a choice I want to make. But then the next question should be, but do I have the ability or a way to gain the ability to then be able to do what it is I'm about to choose to do? So being realistic and honest with yourself to say, hey, you know what? I might not be ready to make that. I said don't ever do it, but now put yourself on a road so that you now can develop the skill or ability, the aptitude on a certain thing that fits that choice a lot better. And I
Mhm,
think that's also a critical one that people get overlooked, I would say,
mhm,
is they make a choice and then, oh man, it's just not working and I can't get this to work and it's so
mhm,
frustrating and blah, blah, blah. And it's just crap because they didn't actually have the right
mhm,
mindset, skill set, ability, aptitude
mhm,
to accomplish that particular choice to begin with.
mhm.
Right. So, what are some ways we can kind of bring that in and evaluate it a little bit better?
I'm not one of those that jump feet into something without researching it, right?
Hmm.
But I think that they can go and they may not have the ability at the moment, but they can go and get that ability. Like you said, do they have the ability to get, or do they have the opportunity to get the ability? So
Hmm.
go and research and do whatever you can to find what you need to be able to have the ability to do what it is you want to do before you jump in.
Hmm.
So you made the choice, you want to do this, right? Go and get what you need first before you jump into it. That's all I'm
Right.
saying. We're not saying don't make that choice because you don't have the ability. We're not beating you down like you can't do this because you can do what you want. But you have to go and get those skills that you need in order to do what you want, right? So go out
Absolutely.
and see what's out there and what's available for you to get there.
Yep. That's true.
Right.
Now, one other thing I want to tag on top of that is patience, right?
Right.
Because sometimes it they want this instant. We live in this instant gratification society
Yeah.
today, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we standing in front of the microwave yelling, "It's taking too long to reheat my cup of coffee." Oh God, 30 seconds is just too long, right? And when in the old days you had to boil water to get hot coffee, but
Yeah.
we're impatient. Um, but what I want to say about patience, sometimes the skill or the ability is there's only one way to get it, and that's
Right.
to actually do it. But
Mhm.
while you're doing it, understand that you're gonna have to have patience because it's not
Yeah.
gonna happen overnight. And
Right.
a perfect example is you and I sitting here right now, right?
Mhm.
If someone would have told us 2 years ago that we'd be
Oh.
sitting here talking to the camera, et
Mhm.
cetera, putting ourselves out there like this, what would we have probably said to that person at that time?
Yeah.
Allow sure
No way.
give her a
Not
little bit
on
more
this
music, right?
subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we started it, but then we also realized in starting it and making that choice, which is what we did to start,
Mhm.
that there was only one way we were going to get better at it. And what was that
Mhm.
way?
To do it.
Do it. That
But
it,
I also wanna say that there are a lot of people out there, like, in the direct sales business, MLL business, that MLM, and that they get told that all the time. Go live, do video, you gotta do this if you wanna be successful. But they're scared and don't wanna do it. I was one of those people. And what happened was I was trying to do it, right? And I've talked about this before, but once I got blasted on Facebook, it was like, you know what? I don't care. And once you don't care about what people say and what they do, and you
mhm,
just keep trying to
mhm,
make your business and do your thing, it's so much
mhm,
easier to just do it, right? If you
mhm,
mess up, you mess up because what people like is authenticity. So when they see you mess up, they're gonna feel for you. Oh shoot, she messed up.
mhm,
Oh
mhm.
dang.
No,
I'm sorry
it's
for you or whatever, right? Just get out there, just do it. Like he says, if you don't do it, you won't learn to do it. You can't just learn from just reading and researching it. You gotta actually jump in. So just know that. Don't
yep.
be scared. Don't be a scared. Just do
Yeah. Just Nike says this for a reason, right? Just do it.
it.
And it's so true. And as Mina was saying, yeah, the fear factor of it and all those things. And
Really.
we have a video on how to get over your fears. That's something that you can
Yes.
definitely take a look at on our YouTube channel. But I think it's key that people understand patience.
Mhm.
Things take time to develop sometimes, especially in those instances where the only way you're going to get good at it, become better at it, is to do it more and more and more. And that's how you build that strength. As I said, build that muscle so that it's strong, right? Takes time.
Yeah.
So being able to have some patience is going to be a key component to that as well.
Mhm.
The other thing I want to come back to just real quick when we talk about making decisions is the word action, because
Right.
not all choices and making decisions like that require an action. Because sometimes it's just a matter of I'm going to do A versus B, and that's just a
Mhm.
mental shift that you make in your brain, but
Right.
there's no follow up action required. But most times when you make a choice, there actually is action required
Right.
behind the choice, right?
Right.
And that's another gap that I think a lot of people fail to see or to account for. They'll
Mhm.
go through the process of figuring out what's the right choice for them. Oop, I'm going to do X, right?
Mhm.
Confident about it 100%. But then doing X requires action. That action requires a plan, right?
Yeah.
If right? But if you don't
Yeah.
take the step to create the action plan itself, then the choice actually has no weight.
Right.
Because you're not gonna actually move forward with it, and it's
Mhm.
probably not a successful manner because you haven't formulated an action plan
Right.
to
You're
support
right.
the choice that you made, right?
Totally right.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring that piece up as we talk about that too, is making a
Mhm.
choice is part of the process. The other
Right,
part of supporting that choice is what action are you going to put behind the choice now
right,
that you
right,
made it.
right,
I'm going to transition into now new year, new you, some of the areas of your life, interactions, relationships, whatever it might be, that maybe it's time to kind of reevaluate to see if maybe it's time to make a different choice. Right. So
right,
that's what I want to get into now. So some of the areas you might want to take a look at is revolves around physical and mental health,
right,
right? And just being honest with yourself, being upfront with yourself. Physically, or are you satisfied with where things are? Do you feel like things need to change? Do you just feel like overall you just need to be healthier, whether that's from an eating standpoint, exercising standpoint, all of those pieces that really make a difference in your life and hopefully the longevity of your life. So, an honest
right.
conversation with yourself about that, and if you need to make a different choice or different choices as far as that goes.
Mhm.
Mental health, there's so much going on right now in the space of mental health, and you can't turn the TV channel on or surf or listen to the web or do anything right now without someone talking about mental health issues. A lot
Mhm.
of it, yes, is revolved around the pandemic, but then a lot of it is things that have just systemically been there for a long time. It's just become a lot more open and people are more willing to discuss it. So if there are any challenges that you see for yourself within the mental health space, uh, what can you do to start to change that? Whether it could be minor depression, it could just simply be some type of post-traumatic type thing that's going on. It could be obviously some type of addictions that are there. Many different things that play into the mental health space. But an honest evaluation of that, and then okay, this is where I see myself, but this is where I really want to be. What choices do you need to make to start to move down that road?
And even in making a change, there can be anxiety with, what am I gonna do this? And once you decide, yes, this is what I want to do, well, there's that anxiety there. So you might want to get into the physical and mental wellness, maybe working out, maybe walking, just to free up that mental space when you're walking so you can think about some things. If you feel like the anxiety is a lot and you need to see a special provider, go ahead and get a referral from your mental health, or I mean, from your your family provider, your whoever's your PCM or your medical provider that you see, so you can get that referral, or from your managed care. So you can
Absolutely.
go ahead and take care of that, and
Mhm.
get some relief by talking to them about it. You can also seek out a life coach. Are we talking about that?
Yeah, we will talk about that.
Okay.
And but what you just shared is great because yeah, you do need that, and then that's actually a good transition into the next area of life that you might want to just process through and say, hey, what choices or should I be making different or better choices in? And that's in healthy relationships.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
romantic relationships as well as family, friends, work, um, all of that, right?
Mhm.
Because that plays a major role in your mental and your emotional well-being as you go through life and day to day, just your general
Yeah.
overall state of happiness, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that you look at that and kind of evaluate, where am I in this relationship or
Mhm.
relationships or the things that need to change. And again, we're not saying get away from the relationship. That's not the point. But maybe there are things that could be done better, differently, in a different way in the relationship that are going to be more rewarding, make it a
Right.
more rewarding situation for you. And that's really
Yeah.
what we're talking about here is that piece of it.
Yeah, looking at what w they're giving, what you're getting back in the relationship, if it's all take, 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 then it's not serving you well, you're not getting anything back, then you might wanna reevaluate that relationship, give them maybe less access to you. When you're trying to make pivotal changes, you need people in your life that are supportive and people that you support too, but not draining, people not draining you and pulling and wanting and want and taking, take, and you're exhausted, you know? So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's important to reevaluate your relationships, whether it's romantic, friends, family, it can be draining to always be take, take, take in a relationship, right? So, yeah, you might want to reevaluate that and limit their access.
Again, that's what we are about. That is our foundational mission is healthy relationships, trying to help
Right.
give you guidance and insight and motivation,
Mhm.
inspiration to continue to work on those things in your life because it is such a critical cornerstone of your just general well-being and your general happiness. Speaking of happiness, that's actually the next area.
Yeah,
And I mean, happiness means many, many different things.
it
But
does.
what I'm specifically talking about here is essentially being optimistic, having been an optimist versus being a pessimist. And
Right.
that glass half full, glass half empty thing, right? Um, because it actually has, depending on how much of your energy that consumes, it can really have an impact on you mentally, physical health, stress. Plays into that, right? Because you're just so pessimistic and negative in a negative mind space about everything that's happening around you or in your world, and how that can weigh on you. So I think it's key that start to try to make choices and better decisions
Mhm.
about things in your life that puts you in a happier space,
Yeah.
a more optimistic space, a more
Mhm.
positive mindset. Those are the things that are going to, I think, have the greater value. So there might need to be some choices made to start to move you in that particular direction. Right.
And even the things that are happening around us right now are just so negative. And so there's plenty of things for us to be negative about.
Hmm.
So keeping yourself optimistic and positive, even when you don't want to smile, even a fake smile releases neurotransmitters that make you
Right.
feel good and
Yeah.
elevates your mood. So just do it.
Yeah.
Push yourself to be positive, and eventually you'll feel these great endorphins from it. So try it. Try it. You
Yeah.
don't feel like it. Things are all going to pot around you. Just do it. Do your best.
And I'm a believer, and this is just a personal philosophy. And a lot of what we do is we share our experience. This is a personal philosophy for me. I also am a believer that you kind of get back what you put out too.
Right.
So from dealing, balancing the universe and karma and all the other things that whatever you might want to call it.
Mhm.
So if you are putting out a lot of negativity, probably going to get back a lot of negativity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a believer that you can switch that to the other side, be
Mhm.
more positive, put out more positive messages, put out more positive energy.
Right.
Because people out there will gravitate more towards you, more positive people, which gives you more support in the mission of being positive. So just bear that in mind too, that what you put out is going to matter as to how it comes back to you.
I've said this before, but I try to put mostly all positive stuff on Facebook, but you better believe I have the negative stuff that goes on every day just like anybody else. But
Everybody
I
does.
want to put that positive face forward so that I can be a light in other people's lives. It's not that my life is perfect, because it's not, but it's something that I want to do to try to help others and be a light. But I'm one of them people that come into work in the morning and I'm positive. Right? If you
Yeah.
got that person in the office that don't like that,
Mm.
I'm the one to get on their nerves coming in all happy. Hey, how you doing? I'm the one. But you better believe when I come in there and I'm like that, I'm not down. I'm not feeling down and walking with my head down. Now I might have some negative stuff that happened before I got here. Bad traffic, maybe some stuff at home, just whatever. But I'm putting that positive foot forward.
Moving on from happiness to just being more optimistic and that side of the coin, we want to we have a video specifically on this, talking about passion in life and fulfillment in life, and finding those things for yourself. What are those things for yourself? And that's also choices that need to be made because if you are in a mindset right now that you don't feel that you have passion for what you're doing, passion for life, you don't feel fulfilled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that's truly how you feel. No, nobody else judging you or
Right.
putting this on you. This is how you feel. Then that means that the choices that you have made to date have brought you to that place, right?
Mhm.
So might be time to kind of reevaluate that a little bit and say, I might want to look at some different choices moving forward because I need to shift from where I am now to a better place, especially from a passion and fulfillment standpoint.
Some people make their choices, like we said earlier, on automatic without
Hmm.
thinking, like we were talking about earlier. And if they put a little more thought into some of these choices they make in life, then they might see that, the way they're going isn't working for them. And it's not anybody judging them, telling them that they should or shouldn't do anything. It's just that it's not working for them. That's not what they want. But
Hmm.
they make these choices and go these routes, these paths, but that's not really what they really want.
Hmm.
So just
Yeah,
put a little thought into what you're doing and make your choices to where you want to be or where you can get that are better than what you're doing now, that you can live with.
that you can live with, right? That's so true. That's I think one of the most important ones is if you really take the time, as we said, it's new year, new you. You start to
Yeah,
really evaluate self. And again, this is all about self
yeah.
care, self improvement, getting uh, putting yourself into a growth mindset. We'll call it.
Mhm.
And if in that you just determine, I'm not fulfilled. I don't have passion for what's happening in life right now. I certainly don't feel fulfilled by what's happening in my life right now. Time to make some choices and some choices that will take you in a different direction.
Yeah.
Uh, and not choosing to do anything is not going to help it change
Right,
because we just talked about that, right?
right.
That is a choice that's going to keep you right there. So,
Yeah, and it
yeah.
might not be a change in career because you might not be
No,
able to do that right now, but it
no,
could be your hobbies or, maybe you could start doing something online like we're doing. There's passion here, obviously, with us.
absolutely.
We want to do
Absolutely.
this and we keep doing it.
Right. Right. And that's exactly right. Because it doesn't mean you're going to, leave your husband or wife or quit your job or,
We
we're
ain't
not
saying
saying it
that.
has to be that dramatic. Um,
No.
Not saying that it might not need to be. That's not what we're
That
saying either.
too.
But that's not what we mean is that you don't have to go out and make this wholesale change in your life,
No.
but start to find some of those things that you feel will start to give you some passion, some fulfillment,
Right. Right.
some true motivation and appreciation for where you are in your life, what's happening in your life. Because it really is important that you feed self from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Next one on the list is be present. You mentioned that earlier
I
already
did.
to a degree, uh, but it's
Sorry.
um, but it's critical. I mean,
Yeah.
we again, this goes into the autopilot thing, which
Right.
is what we were just talking about when making the choice to begin with. It's just rapid fire, and you're not really processing it through. Being
Yeah.
present kind of means that same thing. It's that wash, rinse, repeat. Get up in the morning, do my hair, and walk out the door, come back home, and sit on the couch, watch your period, get up in the morning, go. So it's just this vicious cycle. But where in that are you really taking the time to practice some self care? Try to advance yourself some,
Mhm.
the growth mindset, all these other things that can come into play in that scenario. Where is that in that process? Um, so being present means be in the moment so that you're taking in what's the stimulus that's in that moment, truly taking it in and not just passing it through, right? So
Mhm.
in one ear, out the other. We hear that all the time. So that can apply to any type of stimulus, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, not even, I mean, eating. Sometimes you just eating to eat, not even appreciating the food, right?
Right.
The taste of the food, right? So it applies across the board in all those different areas.
It's funny you say that about eating the food. If you're present, like emotionally present while you're eating, I think that helps you to not overeat. Like you're
Mhm.
really paying attention to every bite you're chewing. You're knowing, okay, I'm eating this. This is good, and tasting This is really good. I think you're actually paying attention to the amount you're eating, you're looking, you're knowing, I think that helps with overeating.
Agreed.
That's
Yeah.
just my
That's,
opinion.
no, no, I think that's absolutely true because you're more conscious of it, right?
Yep.
Um,
But we don't
and then
do that.
no,
We
no,
sit down
it's,
and
it's
look at
not a common thing. We don't. Uh,
that.
and then you kind of alluded to this earlier when you were saying get a life coach or someone like that, and
Yeah, I
that's
did.
the last thing to be aware of is seek guidance.
Yeah.
Uh, seek a guide, seek guidance along this journey, along your path. And again, this is that person that you can call them a mentor, call them a confidant, call them, you know, an accountability person for you that kind of holds you accountable to what you said. But I think it's critical that you have that because that's really where you're going to get um, that reflection from. This is that person who
Yeah.
can hold a mirror up to you and say, "Yeah, you said you were going to do this, but let's take a look at the mirror. Are you really
Mhm.
doing those things?" Right? And then to hold you accountable to it is a critical piece. And I think it's also someone that you can just lay it out there with. You know, the honest, true grit, truth about where you are, what you're feeling, what you need, what your desires are, what your wants are, what your needs are, that type of relationship. So it might end up having to be multiple people because maybe certain people you feel comfortable this way, and another person you feel comfortable talking about with these things, and a
Mhm.
different individual for something else. If that's your team of support, then awesome, right? But the whole idea is to make yourself aware that it's okay to have that team of support, especially in today's world with mental health issues, right? If there's someone that you feel you need to talk to in any way, absolutely get that support.
I wanted to mention the fitness coach because I like the idea of that, You don't hurt yourself. Plus you can get some ideas for workout that work for especially if you were a couch potato
Hmm.
before starting because it's very easy to go out and do too much. And then not only are you hurt, but you just don't want to do it anymore. Because now you've been hurt and it's like, you already really weren't excited about working out, but at the same time, it's just after once you get hurt, it just brings you down for a bit. So, yeah, like if you need a fitness coach, get one.
And what else do you have? Any of these you want to go back to, or anything else you want to share on what we've covered?
I really like the being present and really thinking about the choices that you make because you can if you're one of those people that you keep revisiting the same bumping your head on the wall and we all have those areas. I have my area and I can keep bumping my head on the wall in this one area. And so I get it and understand it. But just sit down and think about what you're doing and why you're doing it and what's important to you.
Again, we just did a session last week on what's your why. So
Mhm.
great video to go back and watch on YouTube. Get an idea of figuring out what the whys are behind the choices that you feel like you need to make. What was really driving those? Because that feeds into making that choice. It's understanding the root of it and what's your why behind it.
And
Um,
sticking to it. I had to say it again.
which is interesting you say that because that brings me to my final thoughts on this. And if I just want to go back to the word I brought up earlier, and that was action or action plan,
Mhm.
because that's how you're going to stick to it. If you truly are just going to wing it, you have no plan, no way that you have kind of mapped out how you want to go about getting from it. It's, as they say, it's like getting in the car,
Mhm.
and I'm going to go from uh, Utah to Chicago, and it's like I don't know what highway that is. I have
Yeah,
no idea. You might want to at least open up Google Maps or something
yeah.
once first to go, oh, okay, yeah, right.
Do
That
your research.
that's a plan, right? And then
Mhm.
it's like, oh, wait, can I drive that in one day? Probably
Mhm.
not. So
Yeah,
where am I going to stop for food? Where am I going to stop to
yeah,
sleep? Having a plan. So that's my final thoughts on it. Making the choice is part of it, and and it's a critical part.
right.
But understanding you do have that space in the middle, which is actually the choice itself.
Mhm.
Stimulus input coming in, the choice, and then the response or action
Mhm.
comes after.
Mhm.
And actually think of that as three separate things that happen in the process. It's not just two: input and then reaction. There is actually a choice in the middle.
Mhm.
What's the worst that can happen, right? I mean, if you're already in a spot where you feel stuck, you don't feel fulfilled, there's no
Mm,
passion, et cetera, what do you have to lose by trying something different?
mhm.
Just try it. Do it. We
Thanks for
hope
sharing.
everyone found value in what we shared today. Making choices, the decision making is a challenging thing sometimes because there are a lot of different factors that do play into it. And the one thing that we would like to say as far as that goes is definitely filtered as much as you can through self. I know sometimes that seems like it might be selfish, self
Mhm,
serving,
mm,
but you do have to live with the consequence and the outcome down the road, right? So take kind of really figuring out where that is for you is a critical piece of it. Please, if you did find value, like on the video. That helps us out greatly. Uh, and then share with someone in your social circle, family members, etc., who would benefit from hearing this message about making those choices. If you know someone is in that spot, they need to make a choice right now, a life choice. This might help them get some foundational reasons and ways to work their way through that process. So please
mm,
share that with them. And then on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the future updates that we have
mm,
coming out with new videos, new content, and some of our collaborations this year, which are going to be also really exciting with some of
yeah.
the cohort of partners we've kind of put together for 2022.
Saturday, we have a collaboration. We'll be putting out some ads on it, and please join us. It'll be nice. She's dynamic. I'm really looking forward
Join us this Saturday live. We'll have a live stream going on. We look forward to seeing you there. Again, thank you for taking the time to join us. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. And Saturday. So we'll see you soon. Until then, be safe. Everyone, take care.
Aloha.